Now, with regard to President Trump stepping in and threatening to block the opening of this bridge, this is where things get a little interesting because now we're talking about infrastructure being used as leverage in international negotiations. And honestly, this shouldn't surprise anybody. Major infrastructure has always been political, always. Railroads, ports, airports, highways, canals, bridges. These are economic weapons. They're economic tools. They're strategic assets. Many people want to frame this as good guys versus bad guys, right? That's too simplistic. Every administration protects what it believes are national interests. The question becomes, how much uncertainty does political conflict create for businesses trying to invest? Because businesses hate uncertainty. Investors hate uncertainty. Developers hate uncertainty. Lenders hate uncertainty. Residents hate uncertainty. And that uncertainty creates a very uneasy, uncomfortable environment all around. What if I told you that one of the most important infrastructure projects in North America was built almost entirely with Canadian money to benefit the U.S. economy? And now, after 8 years of construction, billions of dollars invested, political drama, tariff fights, presidential threats, and years of delays, the Gordie Howe International Bridge finally appears ready to open. What if I also told you that this bridge will fundamentally reshape Detroit's economy, industrial real estate market, logistics sector, and relationship with Canada for the next 50 years? As a developer, when I look at this bridge, I don't just see concrete and steel. No, I see billions of dollars worth of future development opportunities. I see land values changing. I see industrial corridors expanding. I see new investment flowing into Detroit. And I also see some very real questions about whether Detroit is actually prepared to capitalize on what might be the most important infrastructure investment in our region since the interstate highway system. Let's talk about it.
We begin with a possible signal that the Gordie Howe Bridge is getting closer to opening. We do have breaking news on this front. It took 8 years to construct and has faced scrutiny from the White House. Let's get live to Fox News' Jessica Dupnack near the U.S.-Canada border with the very latest. Jessica.
And Roop, it all started with you earlier today when you spoke with Senator Alyssa Slotkin at an unrelated event. We talked about the bridge with Alyssa Slotkin, and she teased a ribbon cutting this Friday. And per government sources, we have learned not only will there be a ribbon cutting, that source is saying that the Gordie Howe Bridge will open on June 15th.
All right, now before we go any further, can we just acknowledge how crazy it is that Detroit has been staring at this bridge for years, right? It's been sitting there dominating the skyline. Everybody knows it's finished. Everybody knows it needs to open. And yet we've all been waiting for the political green light. This is one of those moments where infrastructure collides with politics, unfortunately. The bridge isn't just a bridge anymore. It's become a symbol. Infrastructure projects often have two completion dates, construction completion and then operational opening. Those are not the same thing. Even after construction ends, major transportation projects will require customs approvals, border staffing, security testing, technology integration, operational certifications, political agreements. People assume that once the concrete is poured, you're done. But in reality, opening a border crossing is almost like opening a new airport.
Now let's go back in time a little bit. This whole saga with the Gordie Howe Bridge started during the Rick Snyder administration while he was governor here in Michigan. That was back in 2012. Construction started in 2018. This has been a $4.7 billion undertaking and is ready to open in theory. But if you remember, back in February, President Donald Trump stepped in threatening to block the opening of the bridge. He cited unfair trade compensation, and that since then it's been the source of a political push-pull.
Now, this bridge costed $4.7 billion to build, right? And so when you hear that, you may ask yourself, why does a bridge cost that much? Well, that's actually the wrong question to be asking. The better question is, what happens if we don't build it? Most people think this project is about moving cars. It is not. It's about moving freight. It's about supply chains. It's about manufacturing. It's about logistics. It's about trade. Detroit and Windsor collectively represent one of the most important trade crossings on the continent. Roughly a quarter of all trade between Canada and the United States cross here. Think about that. One region handles an enormous share of economic activity between two countries. Now, when developers hear major infrastructure investment, we hear new industrial demand, new warehouse demand, new logistics facilities, new truck services, new commercial opportunities, rising land values, right? Infrastructure creates development, and development creates tax base, and tax base funds cities. Simple as that. The real debate shouldn't be whether the bridge costs too much. The real debate should be, did Detroit do enough to prepare for the economic opportunities that come with it? Because bridges don't automatically create prosperity. People do, policies do, investment does. Now, with regard to President Trump stepping in and threatening to block the opening of this bridge, this is where things get a little interesting, because now we're talking about infrastructure being used as leverage in international negotiations. And honestly, this shouldn't surprise anybody. Major infrastructure has always been political, always. Railroads, ports, airports, highways, canals, bridges. These are economic weapons. They're economic tools. They're strategic assets. Many people want to frame this as good guys versus bad guys, right? That's too simplistic. Every administration protects what it believes are national interests. The question becomes, how much uncertainty does political conflict create for businesses trying to invest? Because businesses hate uncertainty. Investors hate uncertainty. Developers hate uncertainty. Lenders hate uncertainty. Residents hate uncertainty. And that uncertainty creates a very uneasy, uncomfortable environment all around.
Now, as we said earlier, Senator Alyssa Slotkin told our own Roop Raj earlier today at an event that she would be at the ribbon cutting come this Friday.
The president came out in the 11th hour when the bridge was already built with it. You can see it as you drive into the city in the skyline. And he said, well, I'm not going to let it open until, we work out some details, financial details. And he talked about it. His ambassador in Canada talked about it, and it was delayed. And there was a lot of back and forth among senior officials trying to get it open. Certainly for me, I was in Toronto and I met with the Prime Minister, and this was topic number one of the conversation. So it's really positive for everyone that it's.
Did that help?
Well, I think the negotiations were happening at the Prime Minister to President level. But what was clear is that everybody except for a few actors here wanted that bridge open. It was deeply bipartisan, and I'm thrilled, and I will be there at the opening.
Now, think about this for a second. A bridge in Detroit is becoming a top-level international issue. That's how important this crossing is. And honestly, Detroiters should take some pride in that, because sometimes we forget just how strategically important our region is. Detroit isn't just another city. Detroit sits at the center of automotive manufacturing, cross-border trade, advanced manufacturing, logistics, supply chain distribution. The Detroit-Windsor corridor is arguably the most important manufacturing relationship in North America. A single vehicle might cross this border multiple times before it's completed. That's how integrated these economies are. All right, so let's slow this conversation down a bit, because everybody wants this bridge open. Don't get it twisted. However, not everybody benefits equally, and that's the conversation nobody likes having. The winners, well, you got manufacturers, trucking companies, industrial landlords, warehousing operators, logistics firms, exporters, importers, organizations like that. Now, who could potentially lose? Well, older industrial areas bypassed by newer facilities, smaller operators unable to compete, communities facing increased truck traffic, residents near freight corridors. Infrastructure creates winners and losers. That's the reality. But the bridge itself isn't the story. The land around the bridge is the story, in my opinion. The industrial parks are the story. The warehouses are the story. The logistics hubs are the story. The future development sites are the story. That's where the next chapter gets written.
Another piece to this puzzle is, of course, Governor Whitmer. We reached out to her people to see if she had anything to say about the opening. She forwarded us to the Detroit-Windsor Bridge Authority. But again, this is all unfolding very rapidly today. First, we heard about the ribbon cutting that is slated to happen on Friday, and then several sources, government sources, confirming that the bridge will open all 6 lanes on June 15th. We will continue to track this story. We want some more details on how this all happened in terms of how the Trump administration was able to sort of concede in a way and get a date on the books. We want to know more about that. We'll continue to follow this one for you. Reporting live in Detroit, Jessica Dupnack, Fox 2 News.
Yeah, Jessica, as you know, and you've been talking about, as all of our reporting has shown, relations between Canada and the U.S. have been strained because of tariffs and tough business talk. This bridge opening up is more than just symbolism. It means dollars and cents, and kind of the relationship opening back up a little bit too.
Yeah, a lot of the big players in town here have been voicing their opinion. They want this open. It's good for the economy on both sides of the bridge. We actually have an interview set up in a little bit with the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce. They've been huge proponents of this bridge opening.
Now, infrastructure isn't just transportation. Infrastructure is economic development. We celebrate things like ribbon cuttings and openings, but are we ready? Is the city of Detroit ready for industrial growth, workforce training, housing demand, supporting infrastructure, truck parking, last mile logistics? Because the bridge isn't the finish line, it's the starting line. Another thing to think about is how economic growth either slowly or quickly creates housing pressure. If jobs increase, people move. If people move, housing demand increases. If housing demand increases, prices rise. Detroit needs to continue building housing while pursuing economic growth. Otherwise, we will risk repeating mistakes other cities have made. As somebody involved in Detroit development, I'm watching a few things: industrial real estate demand, commercial investment near trade corridors, and long-term population growth. Because if this bridge performs the way supporters expect, the economic ripple effects could be felt for decades. Now, here's the irony in this whole story. Canada paid for most of this project, yet some of the biggest economic beneficiaries may ultimately be American businesses. That's a fascinating geopolitical and economic story, and it raises an interesting question. Was Canada investing in a bridge, or were they investing in maintaining access to the American economy? Because those are very different things. So after 8 long years of construction, billions of dollars invested, international political drama, trade disputes, and countless delays, the Gordie Howe International Bridge finally appears ready to open. But don't make the mistake of thinking this story is about a bridge. It's not. It's about trade. It's about manufacturing. It's about jobs. It's about real estate. It's about Detroit's future. And it's about whether or not our region can take advantage of one of the largest infrastructure investments we've seen in generations. The ribbon cutting is the easy part. The real challenge begins the day after it opens. Thanks for listening to me ramble. Would love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. There is a Patreon community that I have spun up, and the link is within the description below as well. Would love to welcome you there. See you in the next video.